Ron Tyler directs the Criminal Defense Clinic. Give it up.
Why am I here? So look, here's the deal. We do want to talk about this pivot from being a law student to being something other than a law student, so that you will not just have to say, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but I watched one on Netflix. Instead, what we want to talk about is how clinics offer you this opportunity to make the pivot, to begin making that pivot. And that's what these little notes are about. Up until now, the primary means of legal education for you has been, of course, through the case method. You know, thanks to Langdell at Harvard all those years ago. And, you know, that's a critical method. It really matters because you want to be able to learn about the law through this lens of cases and statutes. You want to be able to recognize legal issues, apply rules to reach specific conclusions. But you know, that mindset, of course, is a judicial mindset. You balance competing interests in order to resolve the problem within a legal framework. That's great, but what clinic affords you is this opportunity to do more than just a dispassionate balancing of legal interests. Yes, that matters. Yes, lawyers are engaged sometimes in that dispassionate balancing. My colleague Suzanne Luban's like, don't dispassionate balancing. It matters, and it does. However, lawyers also, of course, well, first of all, yes, lawyers need to know the rules that flow from judicial processes, yes. But more than simply being tasked with pursuing what is in the best interests of all the stakeholders, lawyers have clients. And you know, sometimes for good or for ill, right? Lawyers have clients, right? When I say for good or for ill, obviously I can think some of the times of a client who you would want to say, or I would want to say, this would be so much easier if I didn't have to actually resolve this on behalf of this person. You know, or other times you're like, how great that person was. But lawyers have clients, lawyers are serving their clients, and so in clinic you make that pivot and you become immersed in the lawyer role, right? In your student role, you show up and you learn and then you demonstrate what you learned, or you get the notes. Not so much, right? In clinic, I was also going to say, you know, in the student role, you might get cold called. In clinic, if there are only 8 of you, there's no place to hide, right? You're you're fully and totally engaged at all times, and you're in role as potentially an advocate, a counselor, a problem solver, right? As an advocate, you are using the same skills that you're learning now, but you're using those skills, you're using the law, you're using your ability to identify issues in order to advance the specific goals of your client, which might quite possibly be in opposition to goals of other stakeholders. If they're not, hey, great, but to the extent that they are, you must, of course, be focused on the interests of that individual client, and that's what all the different clinics will give you the chance to do. But maybe you're acting not in the role as an advocate, maybe you're acting in role as a counselor. You're not always in oppositional roles, right? Some of the times you are, for example, I think of O&T, the Organizations and Transactions Clinic, where maybe what you're doing is you're actually working in a collaborative role, where you're working together with another party in order to put something together, not in order to advance only one interest, but a community of interests. It may be that in that role of advisor or counselor, some of the times in a direct services clinic, you might actually be in the role of advocate and advisor and counselor all in the same case. So at one moment, you are counseling someone about how the law works in a particular area. You might be counseling them about how to make sure that they don't run afoul of the law, or how they don't next time. You might be instead advising them about here's how the procedures are going to work. The skills that will become available to you in doing that are actually skills that you already know, but sometimes we end up unlearning them during our academic pursuits, and so then we have to relearn them, like relearn how to actually talk to people, you know. And so clinics are great about helping you remember, oh, I'm a person. That's good news, you know? And this is a person. I can actually talk to them one-on-one as an advisor, as a counselor. Whether you're acting as advisor, counselor, advocate, you're also acting as a problem solver. Every clinic will give you that chance to actually recognize that at the end of the day, right, that's really the great thing you want to be doing is not only, and so that eclipses what you learn in law school. It eclipses, I suppose, even what you're learning in clinic, in the sense that you're, again, remembering that if I'm working to solve a problem, I'm doing so based on bringing all the different skills that I have, everything about who I am, and recognizing the parameters of the problem in order to solve it. So pivot from law student to actual lawyer, so that it's not just that you watched How to Make a Murder or How to Get Away with Murder or Making a Murderer, that instead you actually are doing neither of those.
A lot less murder.
Actually becoming a lawyer.
There's a lot less
instead.
murder in real life than
No murdering, no
very
murdering.
little
No.
murder. Do you want
Back
to
to
say
you.
anything about